In Kenyan politics, few figures are as contradictory as Dr. Fred Matiang'i. To many, he was once a symbol of decisive action. He dismantled cartels in the Ministry of Education, restoring integrity. He was hailed as a national hero, cutting through red tape. This image propelled him into the national consciousness. But beneath this veneer lies a darker narrative. As Minister of Interior, his decisiveness took on a sinister meaning, replaced by violence and disregard for the rule of law. The question is whether his methods are a preview of the power he would wield as president. Kenyans must reconcile the admired leader with the actions of the man they learnt to fear. The transition to the Ministry of Interior marked a fundamental shift in Fred Matiang'i's power. As cabinet secretary, he commanded the police and intelligence services. The 2017 election marked a turning point. Security forces were unleashed, shocking the nation. Newspaper headlines screamed of police brutality. Media houses were raided, journalists intimidated. The deportation of Miguna Miguna became a watershed moment. As the clock ticks towards 2027, the question is, which version of Dr. Fred Matiang'i would be seeking the nation's highest office? His legacy is a complex and troubling puzzle. The stakes concern the nation's commitment to a future governed by law, not fear. Before becoming a figure of state power, Fred Matiang'i was an academic and policy researcher. Armed with a doctorate, he advised institutions like the World Bank and USAID. Appointed to the cabinet in 2013, he became known for delivering complex government projects. Matiang'i drove the digital migration program with tenacity, facing down powerful interests. He was a manager focused on implementation, intimidating to his opponents. In 2015, he was moved to the Ministry of Education, signaling a radical overhaul to confront corruption. It was here that Matiang'i rose to prominence, cementing his legacy as a reformer. Upon his appointment to the Ministry of Education, Dr. Matiang'i inherited a system in crisis. The Kenya National Examinations Council was rotten to the core. Exam papers were sold, results manipulated, and grades had become meaningless. The public was desperate for a solution. Matiang'i declared war on the cartels. His approach was a swift, decisive operation to reclaim the system. He disbanded the entire board and brought in a new team. He introduced sweeping measures to curb cheating, placing transportation of papers under police supervision. The results were immediate and dramatic. When the 2016 results were released, the nation was stunned. Many hailed Matiang'i as a hero for exposing the rot. He had proven that it was possible to fight back against systemic corruption and win. His tenure was defined by this relentless drive for order. He was feared, but he was also respected. It solidified his reputation as the super minister. Fred Matiang'i's rise was meteoric. After his education reforms, President Kenyatta handed him the powerful Interior Ministry, even as he retained his education docket. Soon he was not just a minister, but the president's chief enforcer, chairing a new committee that put him above all other cabinet secretaries. This super minister role let him coordinate government projects and sideline Deputy President William Ruto, centralizing power like never before. Matiang'i's leadership style hardened. Cabinet meetings became high-pressure briefings. Dissent was not tolerated. Publicly, he projected state power, flanked by security chiefs, issuing stern warnings to any perceived threats. The line between efficient administration and authoritarian control blurred as his authority grew unchecked. The celebrated reformer was now the regime's iron-fisted enforcer, setting the stage for a darker legacy. Matiang'i's move to the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government marked a shift from reformer to custodian of state power. He now commanded the police and intelligence services, wielding the state's monopoly on force. His no-nonsense approach, once lauded in education, became a tool for suppressing dissent and protests. The ministry's focus shifted. Order meant quelling opposition, not just maintaining peace. Under his watch, security forces cracked down on political unrest with alarming force. Human rights concerns mounted as his methods trampled constitutional freedoms. The reformer's zeal was now directed at defending the regime at any cost. The 2017 election crisis was Matiang'i's defining test. He declared the opposition's National Resistance Movement, NRM, a criminal group, justifying a harsh crackdown. Police responded to protests with lethal force. Over 100 deaths were reported by rights groups. Matiang'i dismissed allegations of brutality, defending the state's actions without apology. His press conferences projected unwavering strength, sending a chilling message to dissenters. The goodwill he'd earned as a reformer evaporated, replaced by fear and condemnation. His loyalty to the executive was absolute, even at the expense of citizens' rights. Matiang'i's tenure saw open defiance of court orders, most notably in the Miguna Miguna saga. Media houses were shut down to silence opposition coverage, echoing the darkest days of censorship. Reports of extrajudicial killings and disappearances surged, especially among the poor and perceived regime critics. Security forces acted with impunity, shielded by a climate of fear and disregard for the rule of law. The Interior Ministry became synonymous with repression, not protection. The iron fist that once reformed education now crushed democratic institutions. Control, not reform, defined his legacy, setting a dangerous precedent for Kenya's future. In 2021, bodies began surfacing in River Yala, bound, tortured, and dumped with chilling precision. Human rights activists exposed dozens of such cases, linking many victims to police abductions. The pattern suggested a coordinated state-sanctioned operation. Matiang'i, as Interior CS, denied involvement, but the scale and method pointed to security forces under his command. The Yala killings became a symbol of the impunity and violence that flourished during his tenure. The state, meant to protect, was now preying on its own citizens. River Yala's horrors marked the ultimate failure and indictment of Matiang'i's reign over Kenya's security. The horrors of River Yala were not isolated. They were the culmination of state-sanctioned violence. Human rights organizations documented a surge in enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. Victims were often young men summarily executed on suspicion of being criminals, but the net widened to include activists and businessmen. The method, abduction, frantic searching, and the discovery of bodies bearing marks of torture. This spread fear and silenced dissent, eroding public trust in the police and government. Command responsibility placed accountability squarely with Dr. Matiang'i, who presided over a system where killing became state policy. Families' pleas for justice were met with indifference, the state a source of terror. The machinery of fear that operated under Dr. Matiang'i was a systematic campaign to dismantle the very pillars of a free and open society. The right to protest was consistently reframed as a threat to national security. Protests were met with brute force. This crackdown extended to free speech. Critics found themselves targeted with intimidation and surveillance, creating a chilling effect. The media was also a primary target. The 2018 shutdown of major television stations was a direct assault on press freedom, designed to control the national narrative. Ultimately, Matiang'i's tenure saw the deliberate cultivation of a state of fear, ensuring compliance and consolidating executive power. The most profound and lasting damage inflicted during Fred Matiang'i's time as the security chief was the systematic erosion of respect for the Constitution of Kenya, 2010. This document, born from a long and painful struggle for democracy and human rights, was designed specifically to curb the excesses of an imperial presidency and to entrench the rule of law. It established an independent judiciary and a robust Bill of Rights to act as checks on executive power. Yet, under Matiang'i's watch, the Interior Ministry acted as if it were exempt from these constitutional constraints, treating the supreme law of the land as a mere suggestion rather than a binding set of rules. The repeated and flagrant defiance of court orders was the clearest evidence of this constitutional siege. When the High Court ordered the government to restore broadcast signals for the shut-down TV stations, the ministry ignored the ruling for days. When the courts repeatedly ordered the release of Miguna Miguna and the facilitation of his constitutionally guaranteed right to enter his country of birth, Matiang'i and his top officials engaged in a dramatic and public spectacle of defiance. This was not just a legal dispute, it was a political statement. It signaled that the executive branch, under President Kenyatta and enforced by Matiang'i, believed it held ultimate power, a position superior to that of the judiciary, fundamentally undermining the principle of the separation of powers. This contempt for the judiciary was not just about specific cases, it was about weakening a key institution of accountability. By demonstrating that court orders could be ignored without consequence, the ministry sent a dangerous message to the public and to other state agencies. The courts are powerless against the might of the executive. This emboldened security forces to act with even greater impunity, knowing that any legal challenge to their actions could simply be disregarded by their superiors. It created a constitutional crisis, where the very body tasked with interpreting the law and protecting citizens' rights was rendered toothless, its authority chipped away with every defied order. This legacy of constitutional defiance is perhaps the most dangerous aspect of a potential Matiang'i presidency. A leader who has shown a willingness to place himself and his ministry above the law while serving as a cabinet secretary is unlikely to develop a newfound respect for it upon ascending to the highest office. The presidency would grant him command over the entire state apparatus, including the military. The pattern of behavior established at the Interior Ministry, sidelining the judiciary, suppressing dissent, and disregarding fundamental rights, offers a terrifying glimpse into how a Matiang'i administration might govern. It raises the specter of a return to an authoritarian past, where the Constitution is a document of convenience, not a sacred covenant with the Kenyan people. As Fred Matiang'i prepares for a future presidential campaign, a deeply alarming alliance has come to light. This connection links the former minister to one Ari Ben-Menashe. Ben-Menashe is a fixer who specializes in representing the unrepresentable, brutal dictators, warlords, and military juntas. Ben-Menashe's client list is a roll call of infamy. He has worked for Sudan's military leaders, Zimbabwe's government, and Myanmar's junta. The choice to associate with a man like Ari Ben-Menashe reveals a great deal about a political actor's character. For any aspiring leader, to align with a lobbyist for genocidal warlords is a monumental red flag. The documented connection between Fred Matiang'i and Ari Ben-Menashe suggests an alliance for the 2027 presidential election. This partnership leverages Ben-Menashe's international contacts to package Matiang'i for a global audience and secure political backing. Matiang'i seeks to bypass his tarnished reputation as Interior Cabinet Secretary. He's betting Ben-Menashe's influence can open doors in key capitals, laundering his image like Ben-Menashe has done for other clients. Matiang'i seeks legitimacy, while Ben-Menashe gains fees. This decision speaks volumes about Matiang'i's priorities, suggesting power outweighs ethics. This partnership should concern every Kenyan, indicating the kind of leader Matiang'i might be. What does a lobbyist like Ari Ben-Menashe offer? Ben-Menashe specializes in access lobbying, securing high-level meetings with influential officials. For Matiang'i, this access is invaluable, offering a chance to rebrand himself. Ben-Menashe's role involves crafting a specific narrative to obscure his client's past actions. His contracts often include clauses related to securing investment and military aid. The danger is that this support would come with strings attached, potentially mortgaging the country's interests. The Matiang'i Ben-Menashe connection is a direct threat to Kenya's democratic future. To understand the threat posed by a potential Fred Matiang'i presidency, it's essential to assess the current political landscape under President William Ruto. Since taking office, his government has faced criticism and protests over taxes, leading to clashes and injuries. Accusations of weakening institutions and corruption have also surfaced. Despite these challenges, core pillars of Kenya's democracy continue to function. The judiciary asserts its independence, the media remains vibrant, and civil society remains active. This is a struggle for democracy, not its absence. Let's contrast our imperfect present with a potential future under a Fred Matiang'i presidency. The comparison isn't between a flawed democracy and a perfect one, but a flawed democracy and the very real threat of a sophisticated, efficient, and ruthless autocracy. Matiang'i's track record as Interior Cabinet Secretary provides a terrifying blueprint for what his rule could look like. He's shown contempt for the very institutions that are currently serving as a check. Matiang'i's ministry simply ignored rulings. Imagine a Kenya where the judiciary is systematically sidelined. Consider the fate of the media and civil society in a Matiang'i-led Kenya. His history suggests a zero-tolerance policy for dissent. The man who presided over the Interior Ministry during the era of the Yala River discoveries would have control of the entire military and intelligence services. The pattern of enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings could become official state policy under his presidency. The looming political contest presents Kenya with a stark choice between two fundamentally different visions for the nation's future. On one hand, there's the current path under President Ruto, a path fraught with economic hardship and youth unrest. Yet it's one where the Constitution still serves as a guide. On the other hand, a Matiang'i candidacy represents a far more perilous route towards a centralized authoritarian state. His past actions reveal a leader who views constitutional limits as obstacles. It's a future where democracy is systematically dismantled. The evidence suggests this would be a catastrophic leap backward into an era of autocracy. For Kenya, the stakes have rarely been higher. The story of Dr. Fred Matiang'i is a cautionary tale about the seductive nature of power and the fine line between order and oppression. His successes in the Ministry of Education earned him a reputation as a decisive leader. Yet this very decisiveness, when transplanted to the Ministry of Interior, revealed its darker side. The pursuit of order came at the devastating cost of human rights and constitutionalism. His legacy is now inextricably linked to the violence and the horrifying discoveries in the murky waters of the River Yala. A truly terrifying prospect for the nation and its people. Forgetting this history would be a grave error. The path forward for Kenya demands an unwavering commitment to the principles of democratic accountability. The imperfections of the current government, while significant and worthy of robust criticism, should not serve as a justification for embracing an alternative that promises to be far worse. The ongoing struggles against corruption, police brutality, and executive overreach under the Ruto administration are part of the difficult, continuous work of building a democratic society. These battles are fought in the open, in the courts, in the media, and on the streets. The critical difference is that these arenas for contestation still exist. A regime modeled on Matiang'i's past actions would seek to close these arenas down, silencing the debate entirely and replacing it with the quiet of submission. The international community, particularly Kenya's democratic partners in the West, also bears a significant responsibility. They must not be fooled by the sanitized narratives peddled by expensive lobbyists like Ari Ben-Menashe. They must look beyond the polished presentations and examine the hard evidence of human rights abuses and constitutional violations. Providing legitimacy, support, or funding to a political project so deeply tainted by authoritarianism would be a betrayal of the Kenyan people and the democratic values these nations claim to champion. True partnership means supporting Kenya's democratic institutions and its vibrant civil society, not empowering individuals who have actively worked to undermine them for personal or political gain. Ultimately, however, the future of Kenyan democracy rests in the hands of its citizens. The price of freedom, as the old adage goes, is eternal vigilance. This vigilance requires an active and informed electorate that refuses to trade its hard-won freedoms for the false promise of security offered by an autocrat. It requires courage from journalists, activists, judges, and lawyers to continue their work of holding power to account, no matter the risks. It demands that Kenyans remember the victims of state violence and demand justice and compensation for them and their families, ensuring that their stories are not erased from the national memory. The nation stands at a crossroads between a future of law and a regime of fear, and the choice it makes will echo for generations. The journey ahead is perilous. The allure of a strong man who promises to fix everything with an iron fist can be tempting in times of economic hardship and political frustration. But the lessons of history, both in Kenya and around the world, are clear. Such promises are a trap. The order they bring is the order of the prison yard. The efficiency they deliver is the efficiency of the graveyard. Kenya must choose a different path. It must choose the messy, difficult, and often frustrating path of democracy. It must choose a future where the government fears the people, and not the other way around. The survival of the republic depends on it. Please like and share this video with your friends. Subscribe to our channel and drop a comment to let us know which Kenyan politician you'd like us to discuss next. We're here on a serious mission to let the truth speak louder than the propaganda.